Alexander Pierce possessed all that one could desire. At 42, he earned the admiration of the business realm as the CEO of Pierce Innovations, a tech enterprise he had developed from the very foundation. The corner office on the 50th floor of a shimmering Manhattan skyscraper provided sweeping vistas of the vibrant city that never rests. Yet, even with a net worth exceeding $300 million, designer suits, and a penthouse in the city's most exclusive building, Alexander experienced a profound emptiness within. The cost of success was a burden he had not fully grasped until it was already too late. A decade prior, Alexander was not the same individual. In those days, he was just Alex, a fervent software developer with aspirations of launching a startup, alongside a girlfriend named Sarah Matthews who had more faith in him than he had in himself. Sarah, with her warm brown eyes and infectious laugh, had been his anchor during those formative years when they resided in a snug one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. She would serve him coffee during those late-night coding marathons and gently massage his shoulders when the weight of stress loomed large. "Someday, Alex, you're destined to change the world," she would whisper, and in those fleeting moments, he genuinely believed it. If this tale has captured your interest, please take a moment to express your appreciation by clicking that like button and think about subscribing to our channel for more captivating narratives like this one. Your support is invaluable to us. However, as Pierce Innovations started to gain momentum, Alexander underwent a transformation. As his company flourished, he found himself drifting further away from Sarah. Board meetings, investor pitches, and international business trips occupied his time and focus. The once intimate late-night discussions about their aspirations for the future dwindled to brief text messages detailing his reasons for missing dinner. Once more, Sarah endeavored to comprehend, to exercise patience, yet the man she adored was fading, supplanted by an individual consumed by quarterly projections and market share. The moment of truth arrived amidst what was meant to be a joyous occasion. Pierce Innovations had just landed its first significant contract, a $50 million agreement that would elevate the company's profile. Alexander had assured Sarah that they would commemorate the occasion together. A candlelit dinner at the very restaurant where their love story began. However, as the discussions regarding the contract continued to extend, he decided to call it off. "This holds significant weight, Sarah. Do you get what I'm saying?" he had stated, not quite inquiring. "And what about us, Alex? Are we not significant as well?" Sarah's voice quivered through the phone line. Alexander, preoccupied with the papers laid out before him and the executives eagerly awaiting his approval, let out an impatient sigh. "We'll commemorate on another occasion. This is a professional matter." The stillness that ensued conveyed a wealth of meaning. Upon Alexander's return to their apartment 3 days later, he found that Sarah was no longer there. A note lay on the kitchen counter, declaring, "I can no longer compete with your company, Alex. I wish you success in your search." Beside the note lay a small velvet box, holding the engagement ring he had acquired months earlier, yet he had never discovered the perfect moment to offer it to her. He stood there, clutching the ring that symbolized a future forever out of reach, sensing a fracture deep within himself. If you find yourself captivated by Alexander and Sarah's journey, be sure to like and share this video. Share your thoughts on what might have happened to Sarah after she departed. In the years that ensued, Alexander immersed himself in his craft. Pierce Innovations experienced swift growth, taking over smaller tech firms and branching out into multiple sectors. His visage adorned the covers of business publications, and his name featured prominently on lists of the most sought-after bachelors in New York. He had brief encounters with models, actresses, and fellow CEOs, yet none of the relationships endured beyond a few months. Not a single one of them was Sarah. Alexander made an attempt to locate her once, roughly a year after her departure. A private investigator was engaged, revealing that Sarah had relocated to Boston to stay with her sister. The investigator proposed sharing her contact details, yet Alexander opted not to pursue that option. What could he possibly express to her? That he expressed regret? Had he come to the understanding too late of what was genuinely important? The words felt insufficient, and he persuaded himself that she would be better off without him. He instructed the investigator to cease the search and included Matthews in the extensive roster of sacrifices he had made on his journey to achievement. With the passage of time, Alexander earned a reputation for his shrewd business strategies and generous charitable contributions. A blend that maintained his public persona in a favorable light, even amidst murmurs regarding his aloof personal nature. He contributed millions to educational programs and healthcare studies, created a foundation in honor of his parents, and supported technology incubators for disadvantaged young people. The media lauded him as an innovator and a champion for humanity. Only his closest associates were aware that he tackled charity with the same methodical precision as his business transactions. Assessing optimal influence and advantageous media attention while maintaining a low emotional stake. Today unfolded like any other as Alexander reclined in the back of his chauffeur-driven Bentley, perusing emails on his tablet while his assistant, Michael, provided an update on his agenda. The board meeting is scheduled for 10, followed by lunch with the mayor at noon to talk about the downtown revitalization project, and then the groundbreaking ceremony for the new Pierce Innovation Center at 2. Alexander nodded, his mind drifting as he became engrossed in a troubling report from his R&D department. If this tale has captured your interest, consider subscribing to our channel and ringing that notification bell. We consistently share fresh content, and your support enables us to keep crafting these engaging narratives. Excuse me, sir. Michael's voice interrupted his focus. We are nearing the commencement of construction on 5th Avenue. James proposes we meander through the East Village. Alexander gestured with a flick of his wrist, brushing off the matter entirely. Anything that ensures we arrive punctually. He turned his attention back to his tablet, completely unaware of the world beyond the confines of his opulent vehicle. The Bentley decelerated as it maneuvered through the tighter lanes of the East Village, a neighborhood Alexander seldom explored, even though he held real estate there via one of his investment firms. Through the tinted windows, he glimpsed a version of New York that felt worlds apart from his everyday life. Charming boutiques, cozy coffee shops, lively street vendors, and individuals from diverse backgrounds engaging in their morning rituals. While the car idled at a red light, Alexander's eyes wandered to a quaint park across the street. There, a woman perched on a bench, a stroller resting beside her. She tilted her head as she spoke to whoever was in the stroller, and there was an unmistakable sense of familiarity in her gesture. Alexander leaned in closer to the window, eager to catch a glimpse of her face. The woman tucked a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear, a simple, instinctive movement that sparked a surge of familiarity within Alexander. "Stop the car," he commanded, his voice slicing through the stillness of the interior. James, his driver of 7 years, paused uncertainly. "Excuse me, sir." Alexander's tone was definitive and unambiguous. "Stop the vehicle." At this moment, the Bentley glided to the curb, and before Michael could voice his curiosity, Alexander had already stepped onto the sidewalk. After years of relying on the safety net of his team, the CEO ventured out alone, crossing the street toward the park as if compelled by an unseen energy. The sound of his designer shoes echoed on the pavement, each step drawing him nearer to a history he had sought to leave behind. "Is that you, Sarah?" It was odd to utter the name after such a lengthy silence. The woman seated on the bench lifted her gaze, and in that fleeting moment, a decade vanished without a trace. Even with the passage of time, the new creases framing her eyes and the fatigue evident in her stance could not obscure the unmistakable warmth of her brown eyes. "Is it Sarah Matthews? Is it Sarah?" Understanding flickered in her gaze, swiftly overtaken by disbelief and perhaps a hint of trepidation. Embarrassment? Alexander struggled to decipher the emotion that flickered across her face before she turned away. "Alex," she murmured gently, a statement rather than an inquiry. Her voice carried a huskiness he hadn't recalled, suggesting it had been some time since she last spoke much. If this surprise reunion has brought you joy, be sure to click the like button and share your reflections in the comments. What do you envision unfolding next in the story of Alexander and Sarah? Alexander found himself in an uncomfortable position before her, acutely aware of his tailored suit and a luxury car idling just across the street. In stark contrast, Sarah donned a tattered coat that hung loosely on her slender figure. The stroller next to her bore the marks of time, its handles secured with tape and its wheels a haphazard assortment. It's been a long time," he said, instantly regretting the triteness of his statement. Sarah nodded, her fingers fidgeting with a frayed blanket in the stroller. She affirmed it had been 10 years. A faint noise emanated from the stroller, prompting her to lean in and comfort its little occupant. Alexander glanced within, anticipating the sight of just one child. Instead, he found himself gazing at two identical faces, twin girls, perhaps 3 years old, with chestnut hair reminiscent of their mothers and eyes that appeared oddly familiar. "Your daughters, are they well?" he inquired despite the evident. Sarah nodded once more, her arm instinctively shifting to grasp the handle of the stroller. "Emma and Olivia," she remarked, presenting the twins who looked at Alexander with a serious sense of wonder. He gave a slight wave, which one of the girls, Emma or Olivia, he couldn't quite discern, returned with a shy smile, while the other buried her face against a stuffed rabbit that was missing one ear. Thoughts swirled in Alexander's mind, each one vying for attention. In which location was Sarah residing? Was she wed? Who is the father of these children? Yet the tattered garments, the battered stroller, and the way Sarah furtively scanned her surroundings as if fearing someone might request her departure from the park revealed a narrative he wasn't ready to confront. Before he could craft a question that would avoid sounding intrusive or condescending, Sarah interjected. "We should go," she said, standing up from the bench with a subtle wince that hinted at some physical discomfort. "It was quite a surprise to see you, Alex." With a firm grasp on the stroller handle, she readied herself to leave, reminiscent of a decade past, yet this time, Alexander was determined to stop her. "Hold on, Sarah." He advanced, pausing as she recoiled ever so slightly. "May we have a conversation? Kindly." He motioned toward a quaint little cafe situated across from the park. "Only coffee. I would love to reconnect." What he truly wished to express was his need to comprehend the events that had transpired in her life, how the assured and lively woman he once knew had found herself in this situation, seemingly grappling with the challenges of raising 2 children. Sarah paused, glancing between Alexander and her daughters before returning her gaze to him. After a moment of contemplation, she finally expressed her doubts about the idea. "Our lives have taken on a stark contrast now." As she started to move the stroller, Alexander softly placed his hand on her arm. "Please," he said again, infusing the word with a decade's worth of remorse. "Only half an hour." If you're eagerly anticipating whether Sarah will accept Alexander's invitation, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your involvement allows us to deliver more captivating narratives like this one. Something in his expression seemed to resonate with her, prompting Sarah to let out a sigh and nod, albeit with reluctance. She consented to 30 minutes. However, not at the cafe. A bench sits near the playground, providing a perfect spot for conversation while the girls enjoy their playtime. Alexander trailed behind her to a quieter part of the park, keenly aware of the gazes from those walking by. A man clad in an expensive suit strolled alongside a woman whose attire suggested she hadn't visited a high-end department store in quite some time. As they settled onto the bench and Sarah assisted the twins out of the stroller, Alexander seized the moment to observe her with greater attention. She appeared frail, excessively so, with shadows beneath her eyes and a complexion that hinted at insufficient nourishment and lack of sleep. Yet, there was a subtle grace in her interactions with her daughters, making sure they were happily engaged in the sandbox before redirecting her focus to him. "You appear to be quite accomplished," Sarah remarked, shattering the awkward stillness. "Pierce Innovations seems to be omnipresent lately." "Congratulations, Alex." You transformed the world just as I always knew you would. Her voice held no bitterness, just a nostalgic recognition of dreams fulfilled, his dreams, not theirs. Alexander shifted with a sense of unease. He acknowledged that the company is thriving. However, achievement isn't quite what I envisioned it to be. He gazed at her intently. How about you, Sarah? What transpired once you departed? He found it impossible to express, after I pushed you away, even if that was the underlying sentiment. Sarah's eyes wandered to her daughters, who were diligently piecing together what could be considered a sandcastle, provided one squinted and embraced a generous touch of imagination. Life unfolded, she remarked with a certain simplicity. There are elements that shine, while others fall short. She appeared hesitant to provide more details, yet Alexander's look likely communicated his desire for clarity, prompting her to sigh and proceed. She began, I moved to Boston to stay with my sister, just as I mentioned in my note. I landed a position teaching art at an elementary school. It may not be glamorous, but I truly enjoyed it. I encountered someone and tied the knot. She fidgeted with her hands in her lap, and Alexander couldn't help but notice the lack of a wedding ring. He was known as Daniel. He served as a firefighter. An admirable individual. The weight of the past lingered in the space that separated them. 2 years prior, a fire broke out in a warehouse. Is that you, Daniel? Her voice faltered, and she paused to gather her thoughts. He didn't escape. I was 5 months alone with the twins. The stark sorrow of her words struck Alexander with the force of a tangible impact. I'm truly sorry, Sarah, he murmured, fighting the impulse to reach for her hand. With a steadying inhale, Sarah pressed on with her narrative. Following Daniel's passing, everything unraveled. The funds from the insurance policy fell short. I found it impossible to manage newborn twins without affordable childcare. Our apartment is no longer ours. For a time, my sister welcomed us into her home, but when her husband lost his job, they found it challenging to support everyone. She cast a quick look at Alexander, a spark of pride illuminating her gaze despite the challenges she faced. I've always been mindful of knowing when to leave. 3 months have passed since we arrived in New York. I had the impression that there would be additional opportunities available here. A wave of shame surged through Alexander. As he built his wealth, the woman he once cherished was engaged in a struggle for mere existence. Where are you staying? He asked, a sense of dread creeping into his voice. Sarah's uncertainty revealed it all to him. We find ourselves in a state of transition at the moment, she remarked thoughtfully, the implication lingering in the atmosphere. A shelter located on 28th Street accommodates women with children, though their policy permits stays of only 2 weeks. Since that time, we've been adapting and creating on the fly. If Sarah's story resonates with you, consider liking this video and sharing it with those who would value this impactful narrative. Ad-libbing? Alexander echoed, his thoughts summoning visions he found too distressing to contemplate. Sarah shrugged, a subtle movement that sought to downplay the seriousness of her predicament. We linger in parks, libraries, and any cozy, open space for days on end. Under the cloak of darkness. She cast a quick look at her daughter, softening her tone. An abandoned structure stands quietly near the old garment district. Those who share our experiences remain in that place. While it may not be perfect, it certainly beats living on the street. Alexander experienced a wave of nausea. Sarah and her daughters found themselves without a home. The woman who had faith in him during his darkest times, who championed his dreams and aspirations, now found herself resting in a forsaken structure alongside 2 innocent children. Why didn't you reach out? He asked, instantly wishing he hadn't as he noticed the way Sarah's expression turned steely. And specify what, precisely? Greetings, former partner with whom I've lost touch for 10 years. I find myself a widow with twins, and we are without a home. Could you possibly share a bit of change? Sarah gave a slight shake of her head. I hold my pride, Alex. From what I've gathered in the business sections regarding CEO Alexander Pierce, he doesn't quite resemble the Alex I once knew. The sting of her words was undeniable, yet Alexander found himself unable to refute them. He acknowledged softly, his voice barely above a whisper. He cast a quick look at the twins, who had left their sandcastle behind, now engrossed in the captivating sight of a ladybug. Something about their profile, the contour of their delicate chins, stirred a recollection within him. He inquired about their exact age. 3 years and 2 months, Sarah replied, a hint of hesitation creeping into her tone. Alexander swiftly ran the numbers in his mind. The twins were just over 3 years old, and Sarah had been 5 months pregnant when her husband passed away 2 years prior. The calculations were off. Except. Be sure to subscribe and tap that notification bell to keep yourself informed about more engaging content like this. Sarah noticed the bewilderment etched on his features. She let out a soft sigh, her shoulders drooping ever so slightly. She confessed that Daniel was not their biological father. He understood that this was the moment we would unite in marriage. He was a kind soul who cherished them as if they were his own. She locked eyes with Alexander. They belong to you, Alex. The ground appeared to shift beneath Alexander's feet. He clutched the bench, his knuckles pale and tense. Mine, he murmured, his voice scarcely breaking the silence. Sarah gave a slight nod. I discovered I was expecting just a week after parting ways with you. I attempted to reach you, but it seems your number has been updated. I visited your office, but your new assistant informed me that you are in Japan for the entire month. I sent messages that went unanswered. Her voice conveyed only a matter-of-fact tone, devoid of any blame. Ultimately, I came to terms with the fact that our journeys had separated for good. I have moved forward. Encountered Daniel. He was aware of the pregnancy from the start and remained indifferent. He aspired to embrace fatherhood. Alexander gazed at the young girls, his beloved daughters. At this moment, he realized he could perceive it distinctly. Emma and Olivia possessed their mother's eyes and their father's chin. They were vulnerable, his flesh and blood, resting in an abandoned building, their mother searching for scraps, while he resided in a penthouse with rooms left untouched and dined at restaurants where a single meal cost more than what many earned in a week. Why reveal this to me now? He finally managed to ask. Sarah's gaze held firm. They truly deserve more than what they are receiving. Because no matter what, you hold the role of their father. As I find myself with fewer choices. She cast her gaze upon her well-worn shoes. I have a job interview scheduled for tomorrow for a receptionist role at a dental office. If I manage to secure it, perhaps we can locate a space and begin the process of rebuilding. Otherwise. She allowed the sentence to linger, incomplete. Thoughts surged through Alexander's mind. In just half an hour, everything he knew had been turned upside down. He had daughters, twin daughters who relied on him. And Sarah. Sarah, once his entire world, the one who had faith in him when others turned away, was now battling against insurmountable challenges all on her own. In that instant, the empire he had constructed, the fortune he had amassed, the influence he commanded in corporate halls felt completely insignificant next to the 3 lives in front of him. If this emotional revelation resonates with you, please take a moment to like and share your thoughts on Alexander's discovery in the comments below. Join me, he urged, the phrase slipping out before he had completely devised a strategy. Sarah regarded him with caution. Alex, I didn't mention this to you either, Alexander interrupted her softly. I understand. You're not requesting anything. However, I am extending an offer. I would be glad to assist. Not solely in terms of finances, but... He sought the perfect phrasing. I wish to be included in their lives. I will do my best to compensate for the time that has slipped away. Sarah examined his face, searching for the man she had once recognized and the traits of the formidable commanding officer he had transformed into. "It's not that straightforward," she remarked after a prolonged pause. "One cannot simply stroll back into someone's life after 3 years and assert the role of a father. Emma and Olivia are unfamiliar with you. It feels like I hardly know you at all now." Alexander inclined his head, recognizing the validity of her statements. "Indeed, you are correct. Yet, we can begin at any point. Today. At this moment." He motioned towards the twins, who were captivated by a squirrel scurrying up a nearby tree. "I would like to invite everyone to lunch. A genuine feast. Perhaps we can discuss what lies ahead." Sarah paused, contemplating the balance between her own pride and the needs of her daughter. After what felt like an endless stretch of time, she finally nodded. She acknowledged that lunch would be pleasant. The girls have not enjoyed a meal at a restaurant since then. She found herself unable to recall when. Alexander rose, extending his hand to assist her in standing. After a brief pause, Sarah took it, her petite, roughened hand vanishing into his bigger one. As they rounded up the twins and made their way to a family restaurant Alexander had noticed just down the street. Clearly a departure from his typical Michelin-starred venue. A peculiar sense of completeness washed over him, as though fragments of an unseen puzzle were at last aligning perfectly. The dining experience began on an uneasy note. The twins hesitated in the presence of the unfamiliar man dressed in his elaborate attire, and Sarah's discomfort was evident as she guided them through the options on the children's menu. Alexander, accustomed to leading boardrooms and brokering billion-dollar agreements, felt bewildered when it came to engaging with 3-year-old girls. However, as he accidentally fashioned a mustache with his napkin while cleaning his mouth, prompting laughter from both Emma and Olivia, the atmosphere started to warm up. If this family's journey to reconnect resonates with you, please take a moment to hit that like button and share this video with someone who could use a reminder about what truly matters in life. As the meal drew to a close, Olivia proudly presented Alexander with her one-eared rabbit, Hoppy, while Emma earnestly detailed the distinctions between the good monsters that resided under beds and the bad ones that lurked in closets. A promise Alexander vowed to keep in mind. Sarah observed their exchanges with a cautious demeanor, a mix of hope and trepidation flickering in her gaze. As Alexander settled the bill, a resolution took shape in his mind. As they exited the restaurant, he informed Sarah about a property he owned. A Brooklyn apartment building that was renovated by one of my companies last year. A 3-bedroom unit is currently available. If you desire it, it's yours. Sarah tensed up. I made it clear that I'm not seeking any handouts. Alexander shook his head in disbelief. Not an act of charity. Consider it akin to overdue child support. 3 years of financial responsibility have slipped through my fingers. Think of this as the beginning of making amends for that. When Sarah appeared hesitant, he emphasized, the girls require a secure place to rest, Sarah. A permanent address is required for job applications. It's sensible. Engaging her pragmatic side proved effective when emotional arguments may have faltered. Sarah weighed his proposal, glancing at the twins who were beginning to show signs of fatigue after the lively dinner. She was adamant about paying the rent. I'll get whatever I can manage once I secure a job. Alexander acquiesced, fully aware that challenging her pride would be futile. Absolutely. We can sort out those details at a later time. Allow me to guide you there for the moment. Determine if it aligns with your preferences. The apartment bore no resemblance to Alexander's penthouse, yet when juxtaposed with an abandoned building, it felt like a slice of paradise. Bright and airy, featuring generous windows that flood the space with natural light, complemented by a quaint balcony that offers a view of a charming tree-lined street. The twins dashed from room to room, excitedly declaring how spacious the bathtub was, large enough for both of us, Mommy. Sarah strolled through the space at a leisurely pace, her fingers gliding over the countertops, peering into closets, and scrutinizing the appliances, as though she were on a quest to uncover the secret flaw that might shatter this enchanting illusion. "It's furnished," she remarked, a hint of inquiry lacing her tone. Alexander gave a slight nod. "Every unit is accounted for." The initial vision for this building was corporate housing, but the company ultimately chose to pursue a different path. If you're eager to witness the evolution of this family narrative, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more touching content that highlights the significance of second chances. As the twins stumbled upon the toy chest carefully positioned in what was destined to be their bedroom, a thoughtful addition for corporate housing aimed at executive families, Sarah glanced at Alexander. "Why are you doing this?" she inquired straightforwardly. "Could it be guilt? Responsibility? Is this a charity case stemming from a midlife crisis?" The straightforwardness that initially drew him to her remained intact, unclouded by adversity. Alexander pondered her question thoughtfully. He confessed that a portion of it stems from guilt. "I ought to have been present for you and for them. However, it encompasses much more than that." He surveyed the apartment, envisioning the potential it held to transform into a true home. "A decade ago, I made the gravest error of my existence by prioritizing my aspirations over our relationship. I've accomplished all that I believed I desired, yet none of it holds any significance. Discovering you today and learning about Emma and Olivia feels like an unexpected opportunity that I yearn for, even though I feel unworthy of it." Sarah's expression became a touch gentler. "Alex, I've changed from the girl you once knew. And you're definitely not the same person I once knew. We cannot simply resume from our previous point." Alexander gave a slight nod. "I understand. I'm not requesting that. I am seeking an opportunity to embrace my role as a father to my daughters. Perhaps, in due course, a companion for you." A soft voice broke into their discussion. "Mommy, can we linger a bit longer here? Could you please?" Emma lingered in the doorway, with Olivia partially concealed behind her, both gazing at their mother with a sense of anticipation in their eyes. Sarah lowered herself to meet their gaze. "Are you interested in that? To reside in this place?" The two girls responded with eager nods. "There's a real bathtub," Olivia murmured, her voice laced with the thrill of a wondrous revelation. "And a bed for Hoppy," Emma remarked, equally impressed. Sarah gazed at Alexander, her face a battleground of vulnerability and resolve. She made up her mind to stay. "However, it will be according to my conditions. I contribute what I can towards my rent. I secure employment. We set distinct limits." She cast a fleeting look at the twins. "We approach matters with a measured pace when it comes to them. Avoid overwhelming them with excessive details all at once." Without hesitation, Alexander consented. "Do what you believe is right. My only desire is to offer assistance. To engage as you see fit." The persistent buzzing of his phone echoed from his pocket. Michael was certainly pondering the whereabouts of his boss, who had been missing for the last 2 hours. For the first time in his career, Alexander chose to overlook it. If you're finding this emotional journey resonant, be sure to show your appreciation by hitting that like button for more content like this. Instead, he concentrated on the tangible issues before him. The apartment required essential items such as food, toiletries, and linens. The twins required garments that suited them well and were not frayed or faded. Sarah required some time to recuperate and receive appropriate medical care. Her relentless cough and frail figure troubled him deeply. Each of these issues was one he could address right away, while respecting the limits that Sarah had set. In just a few hours, the apartment was filled with all the necessary items. Once Alexander finally answered his phone, he dispatched his assistant on a shopping mission with clear directives to acquire everything a family with young children could possibly require, ranging from groceries to bedding to toys suitable for their age. Michael, to his credit, had remained silent, even when given the responsibility of choosing princess-themed pajamas and stuffed animals to accompany Hoppy to his new abode. Sarah observed the evolution of the apartment, feeling a blend of appreciation and discomfort. "This is overwhelming," she exclaimed as package after package was delivered. Alexander shook his head in disbelief. "That's just the most basic requirement," he replied. "Everything here is grounded in practicality. Nothing overly elaborate." This wasn't completely accurate. The organic groceries, upscale bedding, and educational toys were undoubtedly more lavish than what was truly needed. Yet Sarah found herself too weary to engage in a dispute. By evening, the twins had been bathed, a process that resulted in more water on the floor than in the tub, fed, and settled into their new beds. Sarah stepped out of their room and spotted Alexander in the living room, sitting in silence, hesitant to depart yet unsure of his role in this evolving situation. "They've drifted off," she remarked, settling into an armchair opposite him. "For months, they have been deprived of the comfort of a real bed. I'm uncertain if they recall the experience." Alexander nodded, his heart shattering at the image of his daughters, his beloved daughters, resting on cold floors or in shelters. "Sarah, I understand we have much to sort through, but there's something significant I must share with you." He leaned in, his demeanor grave. "I wish to formally recognize the twins as my offspring. With your consent, naturally. My name, my inheritance rights, all that comes with being a Pierce should rightfully belong to me." Sarah felt a sudden tightness in her muscles. "That's quite rapid, Alex. It adds a significant layer of complexity. At this moment, you are merely an unfamiliar face to them. If you hold the legal title of father." She let her words fade, leaving the unspoken meanings lingering in the air between them. Alexander grasped her worries. Once paternity was legally confirmed, there would be no turning back. He would possess both entitlements and obligations. If this story resonates with you, we would greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support enables us to craft more narratives that delve into the intricacies of human connections and the transformative nature of forgiveness. He spoke softly, acknowledging your uncertainty. "Yet, I have already missed 3 years of their lives. I refuse to let any more slip away. We can proceed at whatever pace feels comfortable for them emotionally, but I am committed to ensuring we handle everything correctly from a legal standpoint." He paused for a moment before adding, "And by you. Child support, healthcare, education funds, these elements must be properly formalized. Not due to any belief that you might exploit the situation, but rather because they merit the assurance." Sarah fell silent for a while, pondering his words. "You've truly transformed," she finally remarked. "The Alex I knew would never have considered matters of security and legal safeguards." Alexander offered a bittersweet smile. A decade in the corporate realm instills a mindset focused on planning for the unexpected. However, this isn't focused on commerce. It revolves around family. The term lingered in the atmosphere surrounding them, family. Something neither of them had genuinely experienced in years. Before crossing paths with Alexander, Sarah had already endured the loss of her parents, while he faced the tragedy of losing his during the tumultuous journey of establishing his company. Each had experienced isolation in their unique manner, though Alexander's loneliness was softened by his affluence. Sarah acknowledged that consulting a family lawyer is an option. However, the time has not arrived. Please allow us some time to acclimate and create a semblance of routine. Allow the girls to become familiar with you initially. Alexander nodded, ready to embrace any conditions that would allow him to remain a part of their world. He consented, no matter how much time it required. "I'm staying put." In a gesture that underscored his argument, he delved into his pocket and retrieved a key. He said, setting it down on the coffee table that lay between them. "To the residence. It belongs to you for as long as you desire. Without any obligations." Sarah grasped the key, examining it closely as it danced between her fingers. A seemingly insignificant object, yet it embodied profound meanings: security, steadiness, a new beginning. "Thank you," she replied with a quiet sincerity. Alexander glanced at his watch with a hint of hesitation. "I should go," he said, though every part of him longed to remain, to be present when the twins awoke in the morning, to prepare their breakfast, to embark on the journey of fatherhood. Everyone deserves a break. "Would it be all right if I stopped by tomorrow? How about we consider bringing dinner?" Sarah nodded, a subtle smile playing at the edges of her lips. She mentioned that the girls would appreciate that. Your napkin mustache truly captivated them. Alexander experienced an overwhelming sense of pride, albeit irrational, at the thought of having left a favorable impression on his daughters. He assured me that he had a few more tricks up his sleeve. Spoon balanced on the nose. Pretzel ears. All the refined dining manners they ought to master. The joke brought forth a true laugh from Sarah, a sound he hadn't recognized he longed for until that moment. As he got ready to depart, she accompanied him to the door. "Alex," she uttered with uncertainty. "Today has felt like a whirlwind. In positive ways and perplexing ones. I'm uncertain about what unfolds next, but..." She locked her gaze with his. "I appreciate your time today. For providing them with a secure haven for rest. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Your support is invaluable to us." Alexander choked back the surge of feeling that threatened to escape his lips. "I ought to have been there from the start," he murmured. "Rest assured, Sarah, I will be here from this moment forward. For each and every one of you." Without thinking, he took her hand in a gentle squeeze before moving into the hallway. "Take a moment to recharge. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow." With the door shutting softly behind him, Alexander lingered in the hallway, absorbing the astonishing shift his life had undergone in just one day. This morning, he embodied the role of CEO Alexander Pierce, concentrating on quarterly projections and market expansions. At that moment, he was just Alex once more. A father who had been absent for the initial 3 years of his daughter's life, now resolutely committed to reclaiming the moments he had missed. He retrieved his phone and dialed Michael, his assistant. He commanded the cancellation of all his appointments for the upcoming week. Urgent family matter. After a decade, he finally uttered those words again, and they resonated perfectly. More correct than any choice he had ever taken in his career. As he emerged from the building and into the evening air, Alexander Pierce sensed a feeling he hadn't encountered in a decade: hope. If you're finding this video enjoyable and crave more content of this nature, don't forget to tap that subscribe button and activate the notification bell. This ensures you won't overlook any of the incredible narratives and videos we have in store for you. Your encouragement truly aids in the channel's expansion and enables us to continue delivering the content you enjoy. Thanks a lot. Half a year flew by, filled with a whirlwind of new experiences for Alexander. Experiencing bedtime stories for the first time, tending to scraped knees for the first time, and hearing 2 tiny voices affectionately call him Mr. Alex, capturing his heart completely. Faithful to his promise, he remained a constant presence, respecting the limits Sarah set while reliably appearing at the times he committed to. Evening meals 3 times a week. Excursions to the park, art galleries, and family-friendly dining spots during the weekend. Gifts that were meaningful instead of lavish. For Sarah, these months had ushered in a surprising sense of steadiness. She had secured the receptionist position and had now ascended to office manager at the dental practice, her exceptional organizational skills and inviting personality rendering her essential. She settled her rent with Alexander. An amount that preserved her dignity and enabled her to save for the future, rather than simply adhering to the market rate. She found companionship in her new friends, fellow mothers in the building, with whom she could exchange the daily victories and struggles of nurturing their little ones. If this touching transformation resonates with you, kindly give this video a thumbs up and share your reflections on Alexander and Sarah's journey in the comments. The twins thrived in their new surroundings. Proper nutrition and regular medical care had restored the color to their cheeks. They went to a local preschool, where friendships blossomed and their unique personalities began to take shape. Emma, the daring adventurer, and Olivia, the reflective watcher. They had grown accustomed to sudden noises and no longer felt the need to stash food in their pockets, remnants of the security trauma endured during their time without a home. Today held a unique significance. The completion of the legal paperwork that would formally acknowledge Alexander as the twins' father. Following months of consultations with legal experts, DNA testing, a procedure that Alexander insisted upon for thorough documentation, and thoughtful conversations between Alexander and Sarah, they were prepared to embark on this important journey. The four of them gathered in the sunlit kitchen of the Brooklyn apartment that had truly become their home. Alexander had prepared breakfast, crafting homemade pancakes in the form of animals, a talent he had unexpectedly honed after numerous unsuccessful tries that the twins had found utterly amusing. "Would you like some more elephant pancakes, Mr. Alex?" Emma asked, maple syrup cascading down her chin. Alexander meticulously poured the batter into the well-known form. "You're improving quite a bit at that," Sarah noted, taking a sip of her coffee while observing him. In her eyes, a warmth blossomed that had been missing 6 months prior, a careful trust that flourished with every promise Alexander fulfilled. He cast a warm smile in her direction, the twins playfully nestled between them. "Repetition leads to mastery. While I believe my pancake-making abilities are the sole aspect of me that stands out in the eyes of these two. Be sure to tap that like button and subscribe if you're finding this tale of redemption and family captivating." Once the twins completed their breakfast, they headed back to their room to get ready for the much-anticipated trip to the zoo. Another gathering Alexander had organized for following the legal appointment. In the quiet of the kitchen, Sarah and Alexander shared a fleeting moment together. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" she inquired, her voice tinged with a familiar doubt. "Once it's official, there's no turning back. Your existence is about to transform in ways you can't yet imagine." Alexander rested against the counter, pondering her question with a thoughtful expression. His existence had undergone a profound transformation. Pierce Innovation continued to flourish, as he designated a COO to manage everyday operations, enabling him to work remotely 3 days a week from a home office he established close to his Brooklyn apartment. Initially, board members raised concerns about his diminished presence, yet the company was thriving like never before. Maybe it was because the COO had come to grasp the essence of what is truly significant in life. He expressed to Sarah that he had never felt more certain about anything. "The last 6 months have brought me unparalleled joy. Emma and Olivia." He shook his head, still in awe of the profound love he felt for his daughters. "They encompass all that matters. I've been granted a mission that transcends mere numbers and profit margins." Sarah observed him intently for an extended period. "And what about us, Alex?" she inquired softly. A question lingered silently between them for months. Their relationship had transformed from an uncomfortable co-parenting arrangement to a semblance of friendship, yet both remained acutely aware of their shared history and the possibility of deeper connections. Alexander was mindful not to impose on Sarah, honoring the fact that she was still mourning Daniel in various ways as she navigated their new circumstances. "It's completely your choice," he said softly. "It's clear that I caused you significant pain a decade ago. I understand that you created a life with another person, someone who stood by you in my absence. I have no expectations from you, Sarah. Your companionship and your openness in allowing me to be involved in our daughters' lives is already beyond what I could ever hope for. If Alexander's journey and dedication resonate with you, consider liking and sharing this video with someone who could benefit from this powerful message of redemption." Sarah stood up from the table and approached him. She recognized that he was no longer the same man who prioritized his company over us. The Alexander Pierce I observed today prioritizes family above all else. Attends school events. Masters the art of crafting elephant-shaped pancakes. A subtle smile danced upon her lips. The Alex I'm rediscovering is someone I can confide in completely. Ultimately, Hope surged within Alexander, but before he could utter a word, two energetic whirlwinds stormed into the kitchen. Clad in their self-chosen matching outfits, a curious blend of polka dots and stripes, they somehow made it work, driven by an infectious enthusiasm. "We are all set for the zoo adventure," Emma proclaimed with flair. "And for you to truly be our father," Olivia added with a serious tone. The declaration left both adults speechless. The twins were gently informed that they would be attending a significant appointment where Mr. Alex would officially be recognized as their daddy on paper, but there was a mindful approach to the terminology, ensuring the girls were prepared for it. "Is that acceptable?" Alexander inquired gently, lowering himself to meet their gaze. "If I'm your father now, not merely Mr. Alex." Emma nodded with conviction. She declared that making good pancakes was the pinnacle of what it meant to be a father. Olivia, always more contemplative, remarked that you don't truly leave, even when you promise to return later. You have a way of returning every time. The sheer faith in her words almost shattered Alexander. "I will always return," he vowed, his voice heavy with feeling. "Without fail." Be sure to catch more uplifting stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tap that notification bell. The meeting was short, just a few signatures on papers, official well-wishes from the family court judge who had fast-tracked everything, and then they stepped out into the warm spring sunlight, now a legally recognized family. Alexander Pierce, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, was unexpectedly pulled along to the zoo by two little girls who, completely unfazed by his impressive corporate status, were utterly enchanted by his talent for imitating animal sounds. Sarah strolled alongside him, a serene quiet enveloping them as they observed the twins bounding forward, their exuberance seemingly limitless. "I was contemplating," Alexander remarked nonchalantly, "the idea of purchasing a house. A property featuring a yard. Perhaps in this area, allowing the girls to remain together in the same preschool." He cast a fleeting look at Sarah. "What are your thoughts?" "I believe," Sarah said thoughtfully, "that would hinge on whether you intend to reside in this house too." Alexander halted his steps, pivoting to confront her completely. He confessed that he would like to. "Not immediately. Only when you feel prepared. Indeed, I desire for us to embody the essence of a true family, transcending mere legalities and embracing every aspect of connection." Sarah pondered his words, the guard that had shielded her heart for so long wrestling with the undeniable reality of her feelings for this transformed Alexander. "How about we begin with dinner?" she proposed. "An appropriate occasion. Only the two of us. Discover the path ahead." Alexander's smile had the power to illuminate the entire Manhattan skyline. He expressed his desire with a straightforward affirmation. If this exploration of redemption and second chances has resonated with you, kindly like and share this video. Upon arriving at the zoo entrance, Emma and Olivia dashed forward, eager to see the elephants, while Alexander pondered the remarkable journey that had brought him to this moment. A serendipitous diversion in the East Village. A crimson glow that had enabled him to recognize a well-known visage. A choice to halt the vehicle instead of proceeding to his appointment. Minor instances that transformed everything. A year had passed, and Alexander found himself in the backyard of their Brooklyn brownstone, observing as Sarah guided the twins in planting flowers in the garden they had nurtured together. His phone vibrated in his pocket, a notification from his CFO regarding a possible acquisition. Yet, he made a quiet vow to revisit it at a later time. At this moment, he found himself exactly where he was meant to be. Sarah looked up, her smile meeting his gaze and sending his heart racing once more. The golden band adorning her finger glimmered in the sunlight, a testament to 3 months of marriage. It was a quaint ceremony, with the twins serving as flower girls and only their dearest friends present to witness the occasion. It wasn't the grand society wedding that the corporate world anticipated from CEO Alexander Pierce, but it was precisely what Alex, Sarah, Emma, and Olivia desired. "Dad, come check out what we've planted." Emma called, her hands stained with earth, her face glowing with satisfaction. Alexander made his way to the garden, kneeling next to Olivia as she gently pressed soil around a tiny seedling. "What is it?" he inquired of his younger daughter. "It's a forget-me-not," Olivia stated with a grave expression. "Mom says they're unique because they help us keep in mind what truly matters." Alexander locked eyes with Sarah across their daughters' heads, grasping the weight of the moment. "That's perfect," he murmured, "for I shall always remember what truly matters from now on." Ultimately, Alexander Pierce's most significant accomplishment transcended the multi-billion-dollar enterprise he established or the groundbreaking innovations his team developed. It wasn't the wealth he had accumulated or the power he held in corporate meetings around the world. His most significant realization was understanding that true success is meaningless without love and family. The genuine worth of an individual lies not in their financial assets or investments, but in the impact they have on others and the affection they spread. The millionaire CEO, who once witnessed his former lover living on the streets with her twin daughters, had accomplished something utterly astonishing. He had unearthed his essence, restored his spirit, and forged a family that held greater value than all his material wealth put together. In that process of reconstruction, he discovered the triumph that had always been just out of reach. The deep, uncomplicated happiness of finding oneself precisely in the right place, surrounded by those who truly mattered. If this tale resonated with you, kindly consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. Occasionally, the most surprising meetings can pave the way for the most wonderful new chapters, and it's always the right time to prioritize what genuinely counts in life.